All right, let's dive right into this explainer. If you or someone in your family relies on Medi Cal, you absolutely need to pay close attention. Between 2026 and 2028, the entire rulebook is basically getting rewritten, and the deadline to prepare, it's coming up fast.
So we've got to ask ourselves, what exactly happens to our state's most vulnerable residents when California's massive no asset limit era comes to a sudden crashing halt? For the past couple of years, we've essentially lived in what you could call a golden age of coverage, where financial assets basically didn't matter for eligibility, and coverage expanded across the board, regardless of immigration status. But unfortunately, that window is shutting.
As you can see, that window to act is shrinking and fast. We're shifting from this period of unprecedented expansion straight into an era of fiscal belt-tightening and incredibly strict administrative checks. The clock is quite literally ticking down to December 31st, 2025. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll be walking through the end of the golden age, the return of asset limits, navigating long-term care, the 2026 enrollment freeze, the shrinking dental and RX coverage, and finally, your strategic action plan. Let's get right to it. Section 1, the golden age ends, focusing on the budget deficit pivot. First up, we're looking at how massive state budget deficits combined with new federal rules are forcing a huge rollback of those universal policies we've seen recently. This isn't just happening out of nowhere, right? Recurring shortfalls mean California simply has to pivot, seriously tightening the belt on who qualifies and how much they're actually allowed to own.
Section 2, the return of asset limits, specifically looking at the non-MAGI rules. For folks aged 65 and older and disabled individuals applying for non-MAGI Medi-Cal, which is coverage based on age or disability, not just income, the most profound shift here is the return of strict financial asset testing. In 2024 and 2025, you could basically have unlimited savings and still get long-term care. Come January 1st, 2026, the state is going to start counting your pennies all over again. Let's hit you with a vital number right out of the gate: $130,000. That is the brand new maximum asset threshold for a single person to qualify starting January 1st, 2026. Now, sure, historically, this limit was a punishingly low $2,000, so $130,000 is way more generous than what we had in the 90s. But if you're currently setting on a lifetime of savings in the bank, this new cap is a massive barrier to getting the long-term care you might need. Oh, and if you've got a larger household, you can add $65,000 to that limit for each extra person.
Now, there is a stark, absolute contrast between what the state counts against your limit and what is safely excluded. Honestly, understanding this difference is the absolute cornerstone of getting ready for 2026. If you know the rules, you can structure your finances legally and effectively to keep your coverage.
To bring this down to reality, your primary home and a single car, totally safe. But cash, crypto, secondary vacation homes, those will 100% count against your threshold. Now, retirement accounts like IRAs or 401ks are completely exempt, provided you're taking your required regular distributions. However, if you've got, say, $150,000 parked in a standard savings account or maybe a secret stash of cryptocurrency, that's going to push you right over the edge and disqualify you from care.
Okay, let's bust a huge myth right now. Advocacy groups strongly remind us that Medi-Cal is never going to just seize your home via estate recovery while you, your spouse, or your disabled children are still alive. There is so much fear out there that going on Medi-Cal means the government instantly grabs your house. That is simply not true. With the right estate planning, like making sure your assets don't go through probate, you can absolutely protect your family's inheritance. Moving on to Section 3, navigating long-term care and spousal protections. A super crucial point here is understanding exactly how couples can use spousal impoverishment rules to financially protect themselves if long-term care becomes necessary. Look, the state really doesn't want the healthy spouse, often called the community spouse, to go completely broke just because their partner has to move into a nursing facility. So, if one partner does need a nursing facility, the spouse staying at home can legally hold on to up to $162,660 in assets to avoid falling into poverty. When you do the math, between the two of them, a couple can protect nearly $300,000 in countable assets. Add in the exempt home, the exempt car, and the fact that the healthy spouse is guaranteed a minimum monthly income of over $4,000, it's huge. This is a vital protection strategy you absolutely have to know about. Section 4, the 2026 enrollment freeze, covering immigration and access. let's see how all this feeds into the impending adult enrollment freeze, which drastically changes healthcare access based on some pretty hard demographic lines. California has been leading the nation by offering full coverage regardless of immigration status. But, well, because of budget constraints, that door is closing fast for new applicants. We've got to define two critical categories in this whole bureaucratic alphabet soup: SIS and UIS. Basically, satisfactory versus unsatisfactory immigration status. Your label here strictly dictates the quality and scope of your healthcare benefits. SIS includes citizens, lawful permanent residents, and refugees. UIS includes undocumented adults, DACA recipients, and TPS holders. Starting in 2026, which of those two buckets you're in changes the whole shebang when it comes to your healthcare access. So who is actually facing the freeze and who is protected? Well, if you're an adult with unsatisfactory immigration status and you try to apply brand new on or after January 1st, 2026, you're going to be denied full scope coverage. You'll be limited to emergency and pregnancy services only. But here's a silver lining. Kids under 19 and pregnant individuals remain completely protected. They still get comprehensive care no matter what their status is. Section 5. Shrinking dental and RX, the coverage rollbacks. Unfortunately, the legislative changes don't just stop at who gets to enroll, they're also severely slashing dental and pharmacy benefits for specific groups. Even if you manage to clear those new asset hurdles, the actual scope of what the program pays for is actively shrinking. Get this, by mid-2026, an estimated 2 million adults are going to be forced into an emergency-only dental model. We're talking no more routine cleanings, no more fillings, no root canals, just extractions and treatment for severe pain or acute infections. If you fall into this group, the takeaway couldn't be simpler. Please get your essential dental work done before July 1st, 2026. On top of that, pharmacy benefits are tightening up across the board. We're looking at strict new limits on over-the-counter COVID tests, and this is a big one, the absolute removal of GLP-1 medications just for weight loss. Drugs like Wegovy and Zepbound, gone, if it's solely for shedding pounds. They're going to be strictly limited to folks treating specific conditions like type 2 diabetes or cardiovascular disease. All right, Section 6, your strategic action plan. It's all about beating the clock. Because these changes are overwhelmingly time-sensitive, literally the worst thing you can do right now is sit back and do nothing. You have to leverage this current safe harbor period. It lasts until December 31st, 2025, and during this window, the state won't penalize you for transferring assets to get under that $130,000 limit. So how do you actively protect your savings? Through legal spend-down strategies. If you've got too much cash on hand right now, you can legally spend it down. Think about paying off your mortgage or credit cards, installing a wheelchair ramp at home for safety, or even prepaying your funeral costs through trusts. These are incredibly smart, penalty-free ways to lower those countable assets before the 2026 hammer drops. Now, if you're an undocumented adult currently enrolled, I really need you to hear this. Flawless, on-time annual renewals are your one and only lifeline to stay grandfathered into full scope coverage. If you're in the system before 2026, you get to stay in. But man, if you miss the deadline on that yellow envelope the county sends you and your 90-day grace period runs out, you are permanently locked out and downgraded to emergency-only care. Seriously, do not ignore your mail. Looking just a bit further down the road, expansion adults have got to brace for 2027. That is when new federal rules kick in, bringing 80 hours of required monthly work plus super stressful semi-annual renewals. Yeah, you'll have to prove you're eligible every 6 months instead of once a year, and prove you're working, studying, or volunteering just to keep your health care. The administrative red tape is only getting thicker, and you need to be ready to manage it. Leading advocacy groups are stressing one huge point right now. Relying on your neighbor's advice from 2024 is simply not an option anymore. The entire landscape has fundamentally shifted. Whatever was true about Medi Cal a year ago, it is absolutely not going to be true in 2026. As the experts point out, making sure your family keeps their coverage now requires some serious, diligent organization. You need a crystal clear understanding of your precise legal and financial standing. Honestly, it's highly recommended to sit down with a pro, like an elder law attorney or a specialized health advocate, to make sure you are navigating this transition safely. So with this golden age of limitless coverage rapidly fading in the rearview mirror, the question isn't really how you'll prepare, it's whether you are going to act in time or just let the clock run out on your family's healthcare. The deadline is locked in, the choice is yours. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and please share this crucial information with anyone who might need it.